This is how to become a mole in Palia. The entrance to your underground dungeon can be a little finicky, but you just have to keep trying to sit in each chair while moving your character forward. In this video, I'll be showing you two methods to create a home underground. The first method starts with a foundation like this one that features the sink with open areas you can build onto. To get back above ground, simply use the unstuck button. The second method was something I built on the overworld and then later put underground. It's usually easier to enter than the other method, and my version looks like this. You can make it as deep as you want, but the minimum depth is 2 builder walls deep for the entrance chairs. You can go back above ground using the unstuck button again. The first method is creating the entrance and then building the rest of your base underground. You will need at least 2 chairs, some builder pieces like the pillar, the wall, the floor, some small and big blocks for our work area, and finally an industrial wall shelf. First, let's build our work area. You need to put large builder crates staggered on top of each other. I use the small crates as steps to get onto the larger crates. Then, place your wall shelf on one of the large crates. Put a pillar on the furthest edge of the wall shelf. Now we will create the base of our entrance. Start with a builder floor tile and put 2 chairs on it staggered like so. Then, select the floor piece and put it on the very bottom of the side of the pillar from earlier. Put walls around the chairs to create a tunnel. You can put the walls before or after, but I put them after so I can easily see the pillar while attaching the floor piece. Decide how deep you want your entrance. Make it as high as you want it deep and finish with a floor tile to land on, and then leave a 2-wall gap so you can exit the vertical tunnel. If you plan to make your base lower than your entrance, you will have to add more walls and flooring above the landing floor tile. You can add to and adjust this later on with ease, so don't worry. Once you have your entrance ready, go back to the wall shelf and rotate it. You can put it at the most bottom part of the large crate, so your entire vertical tunnel is now under the ground. You can access your underground base by sitting in the chairs and holding forward until you drop down. Once you land, you can keep building onto the foundation with more builder pieces and then put whatever decoration you want. I used a single sink as an example. You can get out by using the unstuck button. To make depth changes, just go back to the shelf and put it right side up again, and then add to the top of the tunnel. If you want to delete your underground base, just put the shelf right side up and take the tunnel off of the pillar by grabbing the floor tile that holds the chairs. Then, you can put it down and delete it from the top. I'm going to move my vertical tunnel entrance off the work area by putting it on a single large crate by the side. You can use anything that the wall shelf can attach to as an entrance. However, you are unable to put this tunnel under your harvest house because the house flooring collides with the tunnel walls. The second method begins with pre-building everything using builder floors and walls as foundation, and then placing it underground by flipping the pre-build twice. Decide how deep you want your basement. Then, start with your initial wall piece and anchor additional walls to your desired depth. Anchor an initial floor piece above the walls you built for the floor of the entrance. Mark this initial piece with a chair so you can remember which one it is later. The chair is needed for the entrance later on. The entrance is required to be 2 walls high, so the shallowest space you can make is 2 walls deep. Then, anchor all your subsequent pieces onto the initial floor piece with the chair. You can create the lower floors by anchoring the floor piece to the initial wall piece. Make sure that the pieces are anchored by picking up the initial wall piece. If everything is attached, then you're good to go. To anchor pieces onto another piece, use your crosshair to place the piece against the initial piece instead of on the ground. Finish making the build and keep checking that everything is anchored together. Make sure to leave the wall and ceiling behind the initial chair open to finish your entrance later. Once you've created all your rooms with everything anchored, do one final check to see that your initial wall piece picks up your entire build. If everything is picked up without the group select option, then you're good to go to the next step. To place your build underground, we need to create the entrance that will fill in the gap we left in our build earlier. I'll call this piece the filler. Place a builder floor on the ground and put a chair on it, and then anchor 2 walls to the floor piece and then put it to the side. Then, like the first method, we start with a wall shelf on our work area and put 2 pillars on the furthest edge of the shelf. Flip the shelf upside down and attach your entire build to the bottom of the pillar. You will need more pillars if you're making a base deeper than mine. Line up the wall of the pre-build you're holding to a pillar so that the bottom of the shelf is level with your entrance chair. Add pillars as needed. Then, grab the pillar that's attached to the wall shelf and your entire build should flip upside down. Place the pillar you're holding on top of the filler piece we set aside so it fills in the gap in your base. Now, use the group select so you pick up everything to make sure it's all attached. You should be grabbing the floor piece of your filler, which is your entrance. Then, use your wall shelf again and put a pillar on it. You only need 1 this time. Flip the wall shelf upside down. Place the entire build and filler piece together against the top of the pillar. It should be at the part closest to the wall shelf. Try your best to place it on the very top edge of the pillar. The closer to the top, the better. When you're able to properly place it, it should look like it's placed on top of the upside down wall shelf, but it's actually on the pillar. Now grab your pillar and place it anywhere on your plot. You now have your entire build underground. You can easily enter this underground base by sitting in the chair while holding forward and trying to sit in the other chair above or under you. Eventually, it should pop you out and you can walk around underground. You can also build further or change things around, but it'll be tricky to maneuver things since everything is anchored. Again, if you want to get above ground, simply use the unstuck button or change plots. Thanks for watching, hope this was helpful.